This is the tale of a young man, who despite being an outsider in his community, makes an effort to make friends. However, he continues to be affected by numerous traumatic events, which is what caused him to turn into a freak. Let's see how that plays out. Welcome to Umaflix. In today's video, we'll be going to recap Dahmer. The movie is based on a true story, as it describes the life of an American serial killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed 17 men and was a complete psychopath who raped and dismembered victims. At the beginning of the movie, we see the man as a socially awkward high school student. The scene depicts the youngster sitting on a school bus, with of course no company, back when he was an uncomfortable teenager in the 1980s before becoming what he is renowned for today. Anyhow, as the bus travels, it passes a man who is jogging. The boy observes the man and, impressed by what he sees, runs to the bus's back window and stands there to look, but the bus driver notices him and motions for him to sit back down as he stands there to stare at the jogger, with whom he has clearly developed an obsession. Dahmer does it hesitantly because the youngster appears to be attracted to him. When Dahmer returns home, he sees his mother Joyce, chatting to an interior decorator who is reportedly going to renovate their house. This man has cerebral palsy, and Dahmer starts to imitate him even after he gets off the bus. He hears Joyce tell him to stop. Dahmer is strolling down the street with a bag when two boys on bikes approach. They ask him what he has. Dahmer explains that it is a dead cat's body and shows them. When they ask what he's going to do with it, he says he will dissolve it in acid. When they don't believe him, he threatens to show them that he has access to acids because his father is a chemist. The two boys become curious and follow the boy to his father's shed, where we learn that Dahmer has a large collection of dead animals. He tells the boys that his father is a chemist and that the acid he has is fairly weak, so it will take about a month to dissolve the cat completely. When one of the boys asked him why he does this, he replied, "I like bones because they interest me." He then went on to explain to the boys that he enjoys seeing what is inside the bodies of various creatures. The second boy puts Dahmer's assertions into question and asserts that the jars likely contain only dirty water. The boys choke and escape, calling Dahmer a freak, as Dahmer then takes one of his jars outside and smashes it on the ground, spewing acid and disintegrating animals on the ground. While eating dinner with his mother, father, and younger brother, David, Dahmer tries to take a chicken leg but is instructed to give it to his brother even though he prefers dark meat. The dinner is frenetic as everyone talks over one another. In response to Dahmer's request for stronger acid, his father promises to see what he can do. David observes the meat is red, his father confirms that the beef is red and therefore not cooked through, and Joyce is unhappy because she believes her food is being rejected. She establishes a new household rule that states, "We eat our mistakes." The dinner goes on, Joyce says, and Dahmer's father makes it clear that he wants him to be much more social than he actually is. The next day, John causes a disturbance in science class and is made to sit next to Dahmer. Dahmer sees a fetal pig in a jar in the hallway. He is bullied by other boys but shows no sign of retaliation. At lunch, Dahmer talks to one of his few friends about something. Dahmer's companion is being bullied by a bully at a concert by a band they both admire, and a senior makes a prom declaration. Later, we learn that he took a preserved animal from the school and carried it to his father's lab at home. David also witnesses this, and Dahmer approaches him stating his parents just fought. His mother claims she is returning to work, but his father disputes this, saying she recently left a mental hospital and is not yet fit to do so. When two bullies attack his friend after Dahmer departs and sees him, the friend yells out to Dahmer in an attempt to divert their attention, but Dahmer merely walks away since he doesn't want to get attacked himself. When Lionel gets home, he queries David about where everyone is. While Jeffrey has been working in his lab for hours, David informs his father that he doesn't know where his mother is. Lionel pulls a trash can to the shed and breaks in, seizing the jars while Dahmer is working and tossing them into the garbage, despite his son's objections. Lionel urges his son to become more socially and physically involved in his life, saying that enough is enough. He is informed by Lionel that the shed would be permanently destroyed. At the revelation, Dahmer is concerned his father intended to close the shed, the only location where he obviously gets enjoyment. The following day, while he was at school, he tried to follow his advice and make his way to the school ground as he stands on the ground knowing what to do. When Lloyd Flagg, the school's drug dealer, approaches Dahmer and tries to sell him some weed, Dahmer appears open to the idea and searches his pocket and pulls out a bag. When Fig questions about it, Dahmer replies that he collects roadkill but is trying to stop. Fig claims he can help him, if he wants, and promises to visit him later. Lionel upholds his promises while demolishing the shed. Dahmer searches among the debris and pulls up a few animal bones, rolling them in his hand. It's out by the road, according to Dahmer, who claims to be closely observing him in his chamber while a jogger passes by. His father confronts Dahmer and expresses regret for his reckless behavior. What was done with the shed? Lionel notes that he sees a lot of similarities between himself and his son, particularly their introversion. He just wants his son to be more social and to experience more of life. Lionel gives his son some weights as a gift so he can exercise and perhaps attract a girl's attention. As his father departs, Dahmer scoffs and shoves the weights under his bed, but to appease his father, he begins working out. However, Dahmer hasn't given up on his interests as we see him in the woods building a rock trap with a stick, rope and bait. He waits for a squirrel to go underneath and pulls the class. When the teacher asks Dahmer why history is important, he responds, "I don't know." When the teacher questions him more, Dahmer eventually invents a voice to respond, "I don't know," as if he were mentally bad. The boy is so invested that he continues to act out strange gestures and noises to make everyone laugh, and it works, but the bell rings and everyone flees, leaving the boy alone on the school floors. After getting a brief laugh from the class, the boy thinks that it could come in handy for making friends. It eventually becomes routine, and one day while he is eating lunch alone, a pair of youngsters, who find him amusing, invite him to sit with them. They are Neil, John, Durf and Mike, and they tell him that they want to start a Dahmer fan club, because they find his little outbursts amusing. Dahmer beams, happy to be making friends in the library and receiving attention. When Dahmer starts making noises, the teacher hears him and proceeds to accuse the other students of causing the disruption without realizing it was Dahmer. Later, the males joined in. While having a breakdown in his home's hallway, Dahmer tries to inform his mother that he has friends coming over, but instead notices Joyce frantically searching through her bag for cigarettes and drugs. She scoffs at that, stating the doctor only gave her instructions, just like Dahmer is doing to her right now in his room. When John and Neil arrive, Dahmer starts to hyperventilate, freaking out that his family is slowly disintegrating. He had thought she had stopped taking the drugs. When he closes the door, he says his mother is sleeping and can't be disturbed. Neil inquires as to whether Liz and a former student from their high school frequent Dahmer Street. When Neil knocks on her door, pretending to be a reporter for the school newspaper, she slams the door in his face, outraged, asking him how it feels to know that her greatest years are behind her. John laughs so hard, he starts to cry in class. When a girl asks John if Dahmer is his muse while he is drawing, John is unsure of how to react when the girl suggests that John draw her at some point. To the class's laughter later that day, Dahmer claims he could draw the girl and instructs her to lie down on the ground while he draws a circle around her in chalk. When Mike and Dahmer go fishing, John notes that anything they catch must be thrown back due to its small size. When Dahmer hooks a fish, John offers him a knife to help him get it off the line and back into the water. Instead, however, Dahmer stabs the fish several times, cutting it open. When John asks why, of course, Dahmer replies that he simply wanted to see what was inside. John, though thankfully for Dahmer, his friends do not object, later at school, and simply tell him to get rid of it. Mike and John Neal are trying to come up with a grand prank for the yearbook. Dahmer speaks up and claims that he should be included in every club photo, even though he isn't in any of them. The group and John believe it to be a wonderful concept. Every photograph features Dahmer, who has a flat, monotone expression on his face, while everyone else smiles. One day John comes over to hang out with Dahmer, but Lionel and Joyce are arguing, and pay little attention to the fact that their kid has a friend over. Joyce even erroneously refers to John by a different name. John swiftly departs as Dahmer expresses embarrassment at his parents' behavior. We also observe the child discreetly continuing to follow the runner, who we later learn is Mike's family physician. When Dahmer returns home to find his parents arguing once more, he begins drinking. Over time, he develops an alcohol problem and begins to smell of alcohol when he arrives at school. One day, they go on a school trip, and he gets into trouble. The other boys are surprised that Dahmer knows about their jogging routine. Although Dahmer is able to get John, Mike, and Neil and a few others into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Charlie, who is his roommate, and the only black boy in his class, may be how different they are on the inside. Dahmer starts to ask questions about this before stopping when he realizes he is getting too weird. The following day, posing as reporters for their high school newspaper. Amazingly, the group managed to run into a vice president, and they were able to speak with him for a little while. When the VP asked the group what their plans were for after high school, Dahmer responded, "I want to major in biology." When Dahmer returns from his amazing trip, his father informs him that he might be divorcing his mother, which breaks Dahmer's heart. On top of that, he can't stop thinking about Dr. Matthews the jogger, so he pretends to be sick and visits the doctor, where the doctor is confused to see the boy at school with an erection. In this yearbook image, Neil and John chuckle when Rose enters the room, because they see Dahmer in every single picture. However, when the teacher sees him, she literally uses a Sharpie marker to remove him from the pictures. Later that day, he sees his picture again. John, Mike and Neil decide to do one last spaz incident with Dahmer, as a way to go out in style. They get a bunch of people to chip in to pay Dahmer to do it, and a classmate to film it. Dahmer agrees to do it on the way to the party. On the other hand, his supposed 3 friends are talking to a boy who tells them that they should be hanging out with Dahmer, as he makes their group interesting. Shocking and alarming John. The next night, Dr. Jeffrey fantasizes about having a sexual relationship. Matthews's dead body begins to follow Dr. Matthews with a baseball bat, but never actually attacks him. While on a field trip, Jeffrey's father moves out. After the field trip, Jeffrey makes an effort to stay in touch with his friends by bringing a date to the prom, but by the time he graduates, he has drifted apart from them. When Joyce departs Ohio to visit family in Wisconsin, taking Dave along and leaving Jeffrey all alone, Lionel gives Jeffrey the keys to the family Volkswagen Beetle, which he would later use to commit his first murder. Evening. Durf sees Jeffrey walking home alone with blood on his fingernails. Durf offers a ride to Jeffrey, finding him living alone with no plans for the future. Durf tells him that he is leaving for college. The next day, Durf offers him his drawings of Jeffrey, which he declines, and Durf offers him his beer, which he menacingly refuses, as he walks back to his car. When Durf gets in the car and starts driving home, he discovers the baseball bat that Jeffrey had just picked up and was going to strike him with. However, he later puts the bat down. After picking up a hitchhiker the following morning, Jeffrey travels and loses contact with all of his high school pals. Jeffrey Dahmer admitted to killing 17 men when he was ultimately apprehended in 1991. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and click the bell symbol to get new movie alerts.